In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, 2,300 miles from the nearest populated land, stands one of humanity's most bewildering mysteries. Nearly 1,000 massive stone heads, some weighing as much as 82 tons, scattered across a tiny island that shouldn't even exist. But here's what will blow your mind. These statues don't just have heads. Recent discoveries have revealed that many of these monoliths have entire bodies buried beneath centuries of soil. Bodies covered in intricate carvings that no one has seen for over 500 years. And in 2023, something happened that shocked even the world's leading Easter Island experts. A new statue appeared, literally appeared, in a place where scientists thought they had cataloged every single Moai on the island. By the end of this video, you'll discover how these impossible monuments were actually moved, and it's nothing like what you've been told. You'll learn why they were built in the first place, and why their true purpose challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. This is going to completely change how you see one of the world's greatest archaeological mysteries. So hit that subscribe button right now. Trust me, what you're about to discover will leave you questioning everything you think you know about human capability. Let me paint you a picture of impossibility. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui as the native people call it, is the most isolated inhabited place on Earth. It's literally the most isolated inhabited landmass on the planet. To put this in perspective, the nearest populated island is over 1,200 miles away. The nearest continent is South America, 2,300 miles to the east. This tiny triangle of land, just 64 square miles, was settled by Polynesian voyagers sometime between 700 and 1200 CE. These incredible navigators crossed thousands of miles of open ocean using nothing but outrigger canoes, guided by stars, currents, and bird flight patterns. But what they accomplished after they arrived defies all logic. Between the 13th and 16th centuries, these islanders quarried, carved, and somehow transported nearly 1,000 massive stone statues across their island. We're talking about monuments that dwarf anything built by contemporary civilizations. The average Moai weighs 14 tons and stands 13 feet tall. But some of these giants reach over 30 feet in height and weigh up to 82 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than 12 African elephants. And remember, this is on an island with no metal tools, no wheels, no large animals, and no trees tall enough to create the kind of wooden rollers you'd expect for moving such massive objects. For centuries, explorers and archaeologists have been baffled by a simple question. How did a small population of people, using only stone tools and human power, move these colossal statues across miles of rugged terrain? The conventional theories never made sense. Some suggested they used wooden rollers, but the island had been deforested. Others proposed elaborate ramp systems, but no evidence of such constructions was ever found. Still others argued they must have used some kind of sledges, but again, where's the evidence? But in 2012, everything changed. Two archaeologists proposed a theory so radical, so seemingly impossible, that it was initially dismissed by the academic community. They suggested that the statues didn't need to be dragged, rolled, or carried. They walked. Terry Hunt from the University of Arizona and Carl Lippo from Binghamton University argued that the Moai were engineered to move upright in a rocking motion using only manpower and rope. The statues, they claimed, were designed to walk from the quarry to their final destinations. It sounds insane. But when they tested their theory with a 5-ton replica, something extraordinary happened. The statue actually walked. It rocked forward in a controlled, upright motion, guided by teams of people with ropes. If this is already challenging everything you thought you knew about Easter Island, give this video a thumbs up. We're just getting started, and the evidence gets even more mind-blowing from here. The walking theory wasn't just archaeological speculation. Hunt and Lippo conducted a systematic analysis of 962 Moai, with a focus on 62 road statues, combined with 3D modeling and experimental trials. What they discovered revolutionized our understanding of how these monuments were created and moved. The key insight was in the shape of the statues themselves. The Moai aren't just artistic representations, they're engineering marvels. Their bodies are slightly forward-leaning, with a carefully calculated center of gravity that makes vertical transport not just possible, but actually easier than any other method. Think about it. When you examine the road statues, those Moai found along the ancient pathways between the quarry and their final destinations, they're all facing toward their destinations. This isn't coincidence. These are statues that were caught in the act of walking, abandoned along their routes for reasons we're still trying to understand. The experimental validation was remarkable. Hunt and Lippo created a 5-ton concrete replica of a Moai and successfully moved it using the walking technique. With just 18 people and 3 ropes, 2 at the head to control direction and 1 at the base to provide forward momentum, they could make the statue walk at a pace of about 100 yards per hour. But here's what makes this discovery even more extraordinary. The walking theory explains details about the Moai that had puzzled archaeologists for decades. Why are the road statues taller and thinner than those at the final destinations? Because they were optimized for transport. Why do so many have broken necks? Because the walking technique puts stress on that exact point. The implications are staggering. This means the Rapa Nui people didn't just create impressive sculptures. They invented a completely unique form of prehistoric engineering. They designed multi-ton monuments that could move themselves across the landscape with minimal human effort. But the walking theory raises as many questions as it answers. If the statues could walk, why were so many abandoned along the roads? Why did the Rapa Nui stop building them? And most intriguingly, what does this tell us about the civilization that created them? Recent archaeological evidence suggests that the Moai weren't just randomly placed across the island. Hunt and Lippo found in a 2019 study that Rapa Nui Islanders built the statues near freshwater sources. This discovery helped answer the long-asked question of why the statues ended up in their respective locations. This isn't just about engineering, it's about sophisticated resource management. The Rapa Nui people weren't just moving statues to random locations. They were strategically placing these monuments to mark and protect the island's most valuable resources: fresh water. But perhaps the most mind-bending aspect of the walking theory is what it tells us about Rapa Nui oral tradition. For centuries, the islanders had told stories about the Moai walking to their destinations. Western archaeologists dismissed these as primitive myths. It turns out the myths were actually preservation of sophisticated engineering knowledge. The ancestors weren't telling fairy tales. They were preserving technical manuals. Just when we thought we understood the Moai, new discoveries keep shattering our assumptions. And the most shocking revelation came in February 2023, when something happened that left even the world's leading Easter Island experts completely baffled. A new Moai statue was discovered on February 21, 2023, in the Reno Raraku volcano crater, challenging the belief that all of the island's iconic monolithic sculptures were catalogued. This wasn't just another statue. It was a statue that appeared in a place where no one, not even the Rapa Nui elders, knew it existed. The Moai found measures 5 feet, 6 inches long and lies face up in the lakebed of Reno Raraku. The crater lake evaporated over the last 2 years after a prolonged drought, likely brought on by climate change. For the first time in centuries, this hidden statue was exposed to daylight. Even the ancestors, our grandparents, don't know about that one. said Salvador Atenjido, vice president of Mayu Henua, the indigenous organization that oversees the national park. Think about what this means. A statue that had been completely lost to human memory for generations suddenly reappeared due to climate change. But the 2023 discovery is just the latest in a series of revelations that have transformed our understanding of the Moai. Over the past decade, archaeologists have made discoveries that challenge everything we thought we knew about these monuments. The most significant revelation? The heads of Easter Island aren't just heads at all. They have entire bodies buried beneath centuries of accumulated soil and debris. These bodies, some extending 30 feet underground, are covered with intricate petroglyphs and carvings that had been hidden from human view for over 500 years. Excavation of these buried bodies has revealed a level of artistic sophistication that was completely unknown. The Moai aren't just massive sculptures. They're covered in detailed carvings representing everything from Polynesian sailing vessels to complex geometric patterns that may encode astronomical or navigational information. But perhaps the most intriguing discovery is what these excavations have revealed about the timeline of Easter Island's history. The accumulation of soil around the statues suggests they were standing when the island was much more heavily populated and forested than previously believed. This challenges the popular ecocide narrative that has dominated Easter Island scholarship for decades. For years, researchers argued that the Rapa Nui people destroyed their environment through deforestation and overpopulation, leading to societal collapse. But new evidence suggests a very different story. Recent discoveries suggest that the inhabitants of Easter Island were actually devoted stewards of their island's natural resources. The placement of Moai near freshwater sources, the sophisticated agricultural terracing systems, and the evidence of sustainable population levels all point to a civilization that was far more environmentally conscious than previously believed. What we're discovering is that the collapse of Easter Island may have been caused not by environmental destruction, but by the arrival of European diseases, slave raids, and colonial disruption. The Rapa Nui weren't environmental destroyers. They were environmental managers who sustained their civilization for over 1,000 years on one of the most isolated places on Earth. This completely changes the narrative, doesn't it? If you're finding these revelations as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What do you think is the most shocking thing we've learned about the Moai in recent years? But the Moai aren't just engineering marvels or archaeological puzzles. They're spiritual monuments with profound meaning for the Rapa Nui people, meaning that connects directly to the deepest beliefs about life, death, and the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. The Moai represent the ancestral spirits of the Rapa Nui people. Each statue is believed to embody the mana, the spiritual power of important deceased chiefs and spiritual leaders. They weren't just monuments to the dead. They were believed to be the actual presence of ancestral spirits, watching over and protecting their descendants. This spiritual significance explains many aspects of the Moai that purely archaeological analysis might miss. The statues aren't randomly oriented. They're strategically positioned to watch over specific communities and resources. Most Moai face inland, toward the villages and agricultural areas, not out to sea as many tourists believe. The few Moai that do face the ocean, the famous Ahu Tongariki platform, are thought to serve a different purpose. These may represent ancestors who are welcoming new arrivals to the island or guiding the spirits of the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. But the spiritual significance goes deeper than individual statues. The Moai were part of a complex religious system that integrated ancestor worship, resource management, and social organization. The ability to commission and transport a Moai wasn't just about wealth or power, it was about spiritual authority. The walking of the Moai may itself have been a spiritual act. In Rapa Nui tradition, the statues didn't just move from point A to point B. They made a sacred journey, guided by the ancestral spirits they embodied. The process of moving a Moai may have been as important as its final placement. This spiritual dimension helps explain one of the most puzzling aspects of Easter Island archaeology: why so many Moai were never completed or were abandoned during transport. If a chief or spiritual leader died during the construction or transport of their Moai, the project might be abandoned as the spiritual imperative disappeared. Recent research has also revealed the connection between the Moai and the island's mysterious Rongorongo script, one of only 3 or 4 independent inventions of writing in human history. Some scholars believe that the petroglyphs carved on the buried bodies of the Moai may represent an early form of this script, encoding spiritual or historical information. But perhaps the most profound aspect of the Moai's spiritual significance is how it connects to modern Rapa Nui identity. For the contemporary islanders, the Moai aren't just tourist attractions or archaeological specimens, they're living connections to their ancestors. Hunt and Lippo noted that shame at being portrayed as the self-destructive failures of history has been replaced by pride in their ancestors' achievements. The walking theory and other recent discoveries have restored dignity to Rapa Nui history, showing that their ancestors were sophisticated engineers and environmental managers rather than ecological failures. This cultural renaissance is having real effects on the island. Moai races are being planned, where teams will attempt to recreate the ancient walking technique. Traditional knowledge is being combined with modern archaeology to reveal new insights about the monuments. What we're witnessing is the restoration of cultural memory. The Moai aren't just ancient artifacts. They're active participants in the ongoing life of the Rapa Nui people, connecting past and present in ways that Western archaeology is only beginning to understand. Despite all our recent discoveries, Easter Island continues to guard its deepest secrets. Even with advanced archaeological techniques, experimental validation of the walking theory, and new discoveries appearing from dry lake beds, fundamental questions remain unanswered. Why did the Rapa Nui stop building Moai? The construction appears to have ceased around the 16th or 17th century, but we don't know why. Was it related to environmental changes, social conflicts, or the arrival of European diseases? Or did the spiritual imperative that drove Moai construction simply evolve into different forms? How many Moai remain to be discovered? The appearance of a new statue in 2023 suggests that scientists haven't found them all. Climate change, which revealed the Reno Raraku statue, may expose others that have been hidden for centuries beneath lakes, vegetation, or accumulated sediment. But perhaps the deepest mystery isn't about the Moai themselves, but about what they represent for human potential. Here was a small population, isolated on a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific, who created monuments that rival anything built by the great civilizations of Europe, Asia, or the Americas. The Rapa Nui achieved something that seems impossible. They sustained a sophisticated civilization for over 1,000 years in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. They developed unique solutions to problems that no other culture ever faced. Their story challenges our assumptions about what civilization looks like. We're used to thinking of great civilizations as large empires with vast resources, extensive trade networks, and massive populations. But Easter Island shows us that profound cultural achievement is possible even in the most isolated and resource-constrained environments. recent discoveries continue to reshape our understanding. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed anomalies beneath many Moai sites that haven't been excavated. There may be chambers, artifacts, or structural elements that could revolutionize our understanding of these monuments. The Rongorongo script remains largely undeciphered, and some of the symbols appear on the Moai themselves. If archaeologists could decode this writing system, it might reveal the actual thoughts, beliefs, and histories of the people who created these monuments. And then there are the questions that go beyond archaeology. What can Easter Island teach us about sustainability, community cooperation, and cultural resilience? How did a small population maintain social cohesion long enough to complete projects that took generations? Perhaps the greatest mystery of Easter Island isn't how they moved the Moai or why they built them. Perhaps it's how they maintained the collective will, the shared vision, and the intergenerational commitment necessary to create something truly eternal. Standing before the Moai today, it's impossible not to feel the weight of human ambition and achievement. These monuments represent something profound about our species, our desire to create something that will outlast our individual lives, our ability to work together toward goals that transcend any single generation. The Rapa Nui people accomplished something that seems impossible in our modern world. They sustained a shared vision for over 500 years, with generation after generation contributing to a project they might never see completed. They created monuments so precisely engineered that we're only now beginning to understand how they worked. Every new discovery about Easter Island forces us to reconsider what we think we know about human potential. The walking Moai, the sophisticated resource management, the sustainable population levels, the spiritual integration of engineering and art, all of it challenges our assumptions about primitive versus advanced civilizations. The real mystery of Easter Island isn't just archaeological, it's psychological and spiritual. How do you convince people to spend their entire lives working on projects that their great-grandchildren might complete? How do you maintain cultural knowledge across centuries without written records? How do you create beauty and meaning in one of the most isolated places on Earth? Maybe the Moai are still walking, in a sense. They're walking through time, carrying the dreams and aspirations of their creators into our modern world. They're reminding us that humans are capable of extraordinary things when they work together towards something greater than themselves. The ancestors are still watching. The Moai are still teaching. And somewhere in the soil of Easter Island, more secrets are waiting to be discovered. What do you think is the greatest remaining mystery about Easter Island? The undiscovered Moai? The undeciphered Rongorongo script? Or the question of how a small, isolated community achieved something so extraordinary? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love reading your theories, and sometimes you come up with insights that even the experts haven't considered. If this journey to the most isolated place on Earth has fascinated you, you absolutely need to watch my next video about next video topic. And if you want to explore more of history's most incredible engineering mysteries, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Until next time, remember, the most isolated places sometimes hold the most profound secrets, and the greatest mysteries aren't always about what happened in the past. They're about what human beings are capable of when they dare to dream big.